Hey, what's poppin', everybody? Let's go ahead and get into the recap of yesterday. 2-in-1 day, and yesterday's slip, I literally missed on a bucket. On a layup yesterday is what our slip missed on. The lock of the day was John Morant over 37.5 points and assists. He ended up getting 41 for us. Went into the fourth quarter with 30, and then, got a bunch of clutch late buckets because that game did stay close, so that helped us a bunch because that game staying close meant the ball was going to be in Ja's hand a lot. He actually ended up finishing with a triple-double, so had a massive night. Didn't get that much points scoring as I wanted him to get, but like I said, got a triple-double. Had like 13 assists, something like that. So had a big night assisting the ball, and then obviously got his fair share scoring. Thank goodness Kristaps decided not to rebound last night because obviously I made that pick much earlier in the day than the injury reports finalized. So Kyle Kuzma ended up not playing. Had I not known Kyle Kuzma was not going to play, I probably would have completely stayed away from that line. Porzingis ended up putting up like 21 points, but he only grabbed like 3 boards. So had he grabbed any rebounds at all, we would have been in some serious trouble there on that pick, but he ended up like grabbing only like 3. So it ended up working out for us with that Kristaps under. I had a feeling, got a gut feeling on that one was going to go under. Had Kuzma play, that thing would have soared under, had that line. And then Towns ends up missing by just a layup. Gets 21, needs 23. Sorry, I kind of got something in my eye. And then had the Warriors, the Warriors had a 47-point first quarter. An otherworldly first quarter. Had they not had that big of a first quarter, it would have been a close game. If you look at the box score throughout, the Timberwolves kept it bucket per bucket the rest of the way. How do you match a 47-point first quarter? Thanks to that blowout, Towns only ends up playing like 30 minutes, and he misses by a bucket. So, obviously, I can't predict a 47-point first quarter. Like the other day when I took Brendan Ingram, and the Grizzlies had a 44-point first quarter. Like, what in the world is going on, right? Like, people dropping 40-point quarters every. I think the Bucks, they had like a 41-point first quarter last night. Like, holy mackerel, teams are just going crazy in the first quarter. But all right, with that being said, we did end up going 2-in-1 yesterday, missing on a bucket, missing just barely there on Karl-Anthony Towns. That's a bummer, but we got 3 solid picks today, like always. So let's go ahead and get into it today, guys. Real quick, if you guys are new to Underdog Fantasy, in the link down in the description below, I have a link that takes you straight to the App Store where you can download Underdog Fantasy, because you're going to want to hop in on the action this year. They have added a whole bunch of new features to Underdog Fantasy this year, starting with the brand new insurance feature, okay? This insurance feature is a new thing that has been super requested for the fans and the customers of Underdog Fantasy. Essentially, all you do is you click insurance right here, and if you can see right there, all you have to do is hit 4 of these picks to win, but the value does drop down. So if you turn off the insurance, you do a $10 bet, you obviously get $200. And if you turn on the insurance feature, it drops down a multiplier down to 10. But if you miss one of these picks, say, Jameis Winston gets hurt or something, he doesn't end up throwing 2 touchdown passes. But everybody else hits, like Lamar, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, and Justin Jefferson. All these guys hit. You still hit the slip. You just get it for $100. Just goes down a multiplier, which is a huge feature a lot of people have been asking for, so they received it. Also, they have added second half lines now to games. Obviously, it is on. There is nothing up because there's no NFL second half games, but they have added NFL second half. So just like for the Thursday night game, I'll throw up that clip right here. Thursday night, they dropped all the second half lines for that Thursday night game between the Bills and the Rams. They've added a bunch of new features this year. They're trying to improve to get the app better for you guys. Also, when you sign up, if you use code TAKEMYSHOT, you'll get $100 match, up to $100 match and 100% deposit match on your first time deposit. So if you do that, you can deposit $50, you get an extra $50, $20, you get an extra $20. Whole lot of stuff coming with Underdog Fantasy this year. Make sure you sign up with code TAKEMYSHOT. Now let's get to today's picks. All right, today's lock of the day. Gonna have a bunch, not a bunch, but a couple of guys today that you're not seeing across a lot of other platforms. I love to play with diversity on this channel. Love to play new faces. Love to play guys. Obviously, stars, they're good to bet on. They're going to put up their numbers a lot more times than they're not. But I love to play with diversity. I love to play with guys that you're not seeing across other platforms. I love to play new faces for sure on this channel. So today's lock of the day, we haven't bet on them yet this season. We're going to go with DeAndre Ayton today, over 27.5 points and rebounds versus the Sacramento Kings. Today, on the season, DeAndre Ayton is averaging 17 and 11. So he is literally averaging 28. And today he's taking on a very good defense, or a good matchup for him, a bad defensive matchup in the Sacramento Kings, who give up the 6th most points in the paint in the NBA. Ayton, currently on advanced stats, is one of the top points in the paint scorers in the entire NBA. He gets the 4th most points in the paint touches at 10.3 per game, and he sits right amongst the best in the NBA points in the paint, sitting at 3rd in the NBA, only trailing behind Anthony Davis and Rudy Gobert. So he's taking on one of the worst points in the paint defending teams in the NBA, and he is one of the best points in the paint bigs in the entire NBA. The last 2 games, he's taken on the Jazz and the Pistons, and he has absolutely torched them for 28-12 and 29-21. Taking on the Jazz and the Pistons, who are also right there with the Sacramento Kings as one of the worst paint defending teams in the NBA. They're literally 30-29. So they're the 2 worst in the entire NBA. Expecting another big night today from DeAndre Ayton. Chris Paul is questionable. His status is a little bit up in the air. I don't think adding Chris Paul takes away too much from DeAndre Ayton. Obviously, Chris Paul is not much of an offensive scorer. I actually think he probably puts up better numbers with Chris Paul because Chris Paul runs the pick and roll with him very well. So I'm thinking even if Paul does end up playing, which again, he's questionable up in the air, I think he still crushes this line regardless. He's actually averaging 12 shots per game right now and 62% shooting. So if he can continue to take, anywhere between 10 to 15 shots, we're in a really good spot with DeAndre Ayton. So this game spread also does sit at the 2.5-point spread between the Kings and the Suns, and a 232 total, or it's actually a 1.5 now. It's a 1.5 spread, but it's a bucket spread and sitting at a 232 total for this game. So give me DeAndre Ayton over 27.5 points and rebounds for today's lock of the day. All right, next up, we're going to head over to the Chicago Bulls game. Give me Nikola Vucevic today over 28.5 points and rebounds. Now, today, Nikola Vucevic will be taking on the Utah Jazz. We just talked about it with DeAndre Ayton. Man, the Jazz struggle. They are the worst paint defending team in the entire NBA. They give up 57 points in the paint, and that is dead last in the NBA, dead last in the entire NBA. Now, this is very interesting because Nikola Vucevic's points and rebounds line sits at 28.5. In his last 10 games, he's only hit this twice. And the games where he hasn't hit it, he's not really come close. So when you're thinking about it, you're like, wow, he's not really hitting this line. His average isn't close to this on the year, and they've got this line so high. It's because of the defensive matchup. He's taking on the 2nd worst overall defense in the NBA when it comes to guarding bigs. This Utah Jazz team really struggles to defend big men, which is interesting when you really think about it because I guess technically Lauri Markkanen's a center, so they're saying that obviously Lauri Markkanen continues to struggle versus centers. Also in this one, Lauri Markkanen is questionable, so if he does end up not playing, that does add a little bit more value to Nikola Vucevic, I think, because whoever the backup is off the bench for the Jazz, is Walker Kessler, I think. Obviously not as good of a player as Lauri Markkanen, so I think Vucevic can have an even bigger night. Now, as far as how he's played on the year, like I said, he's only hit 2 out of the last 10 games. He's not really scored all that much, right? You have guys like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. The only thing that kind of worries me is I'm kind of up in the air between points and rebounds and just straight up points. His points just sits at 16.5. Now, I think he's going to score a lot of buckets in the paint because the Jazz give up a lot in the paint. When you're looking at the last couple of games for the Jazz and how big men have fared versus them, we just talked about it. DeAndre Ayton had 29 and 21. DeAndre Ayton and Nikola Vucevic, very similar skill sets. Very similar. Vucevic just shoots the 3 just a little bit more, but very similar roles on their team, very similar skill sets. I think Vucevic can put up a very similar line to what Ayton did. Another guy that they played that I think has a very similar skill set to him, Jusuf Nurkic. Jusuf Nurkic had 18 and 7. He also had a very good game against them. I think he can put up kind of similar numbers to those guys. Even guys like Kevon Looney, he had 10 and 12. He had 22. Kevon Looney, a guy that does not play them that much minutes, he even had a pretty good game. Marvin Bagley had 19 and 6. Ivica Zubac had 14 and 14. He cooked them. So they're giving up a lot of points. They give up the 3rd most rebounds in the NBA centers. I think Vucevic is in line to have a big game, even though recently his success has not come from points and rebounds, only hitting that line 2 out of the last 10 games. So give me Nikola Vucevic because of the defensive matchup over 28.5 points, 10 rebounds. But I also think points is not a bad line. But I think I'm going to end up going with points and rebounds by the end of the day. All right, and our lone guard of the day, we're going to rock with the Los Angeles Lakers guard Lonnie Walker over 16.5 points. Man, I don't like betting on the Lakers, but he has been a lone bright spot this season outside of Anthony Davis, obviously. For this Los Angeles Lakers team. He is averaging 17 points per game on the season. Is Lonnie Walker, and his line is sitting right at 17. And he's got a great matchup today. He's taking on the Indiana Pacers, who have the 6th worst, they allow the 6th most points in the NBA to shooting guards. So a team that does allow shooting guards to get a fair amount of buckets. And Lonnie Walker's been playing very great basketball, especially of late. The entire season he's been playing really well, but especially of late he's been playing well. He's hit this line 3 straight games and has actually hit it 6 of the last 7, averaging 19 points per game in that stretch of the 7-game stretch here. This game sits at a 2.5-point spread, so just a bucket spread. They anticipate it to be close, and a 237 total. I think even if Anthony Davis does end up playing this game because he's questionable, his status is up in the air, it'll probably bump this spread up maybe a point or two, maybe to like 4.5. The total will go up. Maybe they touch that 240 range, probably not, probably around 239, 238 range. But I still think the the Indiana Pacers have been a very good team this year. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton leading them. They have Buddy Hield, maybe is what I'm thinking would be his defensive matchup for Lonnie Walker. If it wouldn't be Buddy Hield, you know, maybe Halliburton. I don't think either of those guys are very good defensive guys to stop Lonnie Walker. Obviously, when there's also a lot of attention on LeBron and a lot of attention on Anthony Davis, that leaves him open on the wing to shoot a lot of threes. So I'm taking Lonnie Walker today over 16.5 points. So you're keeping my eye on him all season as he's continued to have a really good year. So give me Lonnie Walker today over 16.5 points as our third play of the day today. All right, that means our perfect three slip for today is going to be the lock of the day, DeAndre Ayton over 27.5 points and rebounds. Give me Nikola Vucevic over 28.5 points and rebounds. And give me Lonnie Walker over 16.5 points as today's perfect three slip. All right, boys, with that being said, that's going to wrap up today's video. Still going for the sweep, man. Still going for the 6th sweep of the month to go ahead and break our streak record. Just connected, literally just happened on my Brazil bet. I don't bet on soccer, and I'm probably never going to do it again because Brazil scored a goal, and then I stopped watching, and then I guess they took the goal away, and then they scored again. Thankfully, they just won. They just won their game, so I just hit on my Brazil bet. I'm never betting on all I knew is that Brazil was like the favorite coming in, so I was like, oh yeah, they'll win their game today, and they almost drawed. So I'm over it. Draws are stupid, soccer's dumb, but that's just on a side note. I was watching that game the whole time I was editing this video. So yay, go Brazil. I hit that bet anyways. Sorry, just a little side note there. That's gonna wrap up today's video. Going for that 6th sweep of the month to try to break our record. We've had a very good month. We've just fallen under 18 units because we did end up trying to do some bigger unit plays. We had a 2-unit play the other day when I tried to connect on a 5 slip and a 3 slip. But you know, sometimes if we're doing well, I try to up the ante just a little bit. But with that being said, guys, I will catch you tomorrow. Peace.